Every business does it, and most treat it as just a box to check and nothing more. Let's talk about contract review. You see, having nearly a decade of experience helping enterprise legal, sales, and procurement teams with this specific problem, I've seen what happens when contract review becomes a problem. So today, I want to walk you through where contract review tends to go wrong at scale, how AI is changing it, and what you need to make your process more effective. Let's get into it. Ask most people what contract review is, and you'll hear the same description. A lawyer reads a contract, flags risks, signs off. That's not wrong, but it's also why so many legal departments are quietly drowning. The old model treats contract review as a reading exercise. The reviewer catches what they happen to notice. That works at a dozen contracts a year. At hundreds, the cracks show. At thousands, it's broken. Real contract review at scale isn't reading. It's comparing. You're comparing every clause against a set of standards your company has already decided on. Risk thresholds, preferred clauses, fallback positions if a counterparty pushes back. Job isn't reading harder, it's reading against something specific. And the old model has a second flaw. It treats every contract the same. Same scrutiny, regardless of risk. Triage works on signals you can read before opening the document. Is it our paper or theirs? Is the counterparty new or someone we've worked with for years? What's the contract value? Is it a standard NDA or a more complex licensing agreement? A new counterparty submitting their own paper for a high-value licensing deal needs senior legal attention from the start. A routine renewal with a vendor you've worked with for 5 years rarely needs more than a quick check. Most contracts sit somewhere in between. Standard terms with some negotiation where you need to catch deviations from your standards, but you don't need a partner-level lawyer reading every clause. Sort before you read. Otherwise, your team spends the same hour on a routine renewal as on a deal that could expose you to 7 figures liability. Let's start with what contract review actually is, because people use the phrase loosely and it means different things depending on who you ask. At its core, contract review is the process of reading through an agreement before you sign it to identify risk, check whether the terms align with your company's standards, and decide whether anything needs to be changed. It means reading with a specific set of questions in mind against a specific set of standards your company has already decided on. And the process follows a simple sequence when done properly. Now, all of that works well when you're handling a manageable number of contracts. Once volume goes up, the process stops working the way it did when the team was smaller, and nobody notices until there's a problem. I won't give you one specific story. I've seen this pattern across too many companies for any single one to be representative. But here's what it looks like when contract review breaks at scale. First, contracts stop getting reviewed at all. They go straight from sales or procurement to signature because legal can't keep up. Second, and this is the more dangerous one, contracts still get reviewed, but not properly. Anyone who's worked in a legal department knows the pattern. End of quarter, everyone wants their contracts signed off. The mistakes don't happen on the first contract of the morning. They happen on the 5th or the 10th, late in the evening, and after 9 hours of reading boilerplate. And eventually, the legal department becomes the internal enemy. The team that's actually trying to protect the business gets blamed for slowing it down, and that's a sign the process has broken, not the people. The first place it shows up is speed. An experienced lawyer reviewing a contract manually takes an average of 10 to 12 pages per hour. For a company managing thousands of contracts a year, that math compounds fast. And when legal is backed up, other teams feel it. A sales rep waiting on a reviewed contract can't close. A procurement team waiting on sign-off can't move a vendor forward. And a project that needs a signed agreement to get started just sits. The second place is consistency. When multiple reviewers go through contracts manually, the same clause can get a completely different risk assessment depending on who happens to look at it that day. Some agreements get rigorous scrutiny, others get a quick scan, and there's no reliable way to know which one you're getting. Over time, that creates uneven risk exposure across the whole portfolio. Now, the third place is what happens to obligations after the contract is signed. Contract review tends to be treated as a pre-signature activity, but the obligations in those agreements don't stop when you close the deal. Termination windows, renewal dates, pricing adjustment clauses, and compliance deadlines need to be tracked after the fact, and in most companies, they aren't. Because if you miss a termination window, you're automatically locked into another term of a vendor relationship you wanted to exit. And then there are the costs that tend to go unnoticed for a long time. When internal legal capacity runs out, the workaround is usually to send routine review work to outside counsel. That's expensive for work that's often repetitive and low complexity, the kind of review that doesn't actually need a senior external lawyer to touch it. Organizations lose an average of 8.6% of total spending annually to cost leakage related to contract management issues. And that number doesn't come from one big mistake. It accumulates from dozens of small ones across a year. Now that we've covered what goes wrong at scale, let's talk about how AI changes it. AI contract review is not a chatbot you ask questions to. It's a system that reads a contract, compares every clause against a predefined set of standards, and surfaces anything that doesn't match before a human has to go looking for it. Manual review of a standard data protection agreement takes an experienced lawyer 45 to 60 minutes. But with AI, the same initial review takes under 10 minutes. And because the AI applies the same logic to every contract it sees, you get consistency that a manual process can't produce at volume. Cool. Now, the foundation of how AI review works is something called a playbook. A playbook is your company's internal rulebook for contracts, covering the preferred clauses, the fallback positions if counterparty pushes back, and the rules for what goes to a senior lawyer versus what gets approved automatically. Without a playbook, AI just produces a summary. It tells you what's in the contract, but it can't tell you whether what's in the contract is acceptable by your standards. With a playbook, the AI checks every incoming contract against your specific positions and surfaces deviations, which means reviewers spend their time on actual decisions rather than reading through documents looking for problems. Let's talk about accuracy, because this is the question I hear most from legal teams evaluating AI review tools, and it's almost always framed wrong. Buyers expect a single number, 87%, 92%, whatever. That number exists, but quality in legal AI isn't a number. It's a system of reinforcing layers where each one reduces a different kind of risk. The foundation is your playbook, your company's standards, in a structure the AI can't actually apply. That covers the baseline. Most tools stop here. On top of that sits calibration. The AI learns how your team thinks automatically through a feedback loop during normal reviews and through targeted tuning on the specific examples that matter most. That's the layer that closes the gap between generic AI output and your team's actual judgment. And above that, anomaly detection, flagging clauses that fall outside expected patterns, catching what your playbook didn't know to look for. No single layer is enough. Together, they make AI review audible, explainable, and actually trustworthy in production. A black box accuracy number can't deliver that. A multi-layered quality system can. That said, AI doesn't replace the human layer. It changes what the human layer is actually responsible for. AI handles the first pass, reading the document, comparing it against the playbook, and surfacing the issue that need attention. A lawyer or a senior reviewer then focuses on the interpretation and strategy, the parts that require judgment and relationship awareness. Teams that do this well see a 3 to 4 times return on investment, not just from eliminating legal review, but from freeing lawyers up from routine reading so that they actually can focus on work that really matters and requires their judgment. The first thing to get in place is your playbook. And the reason most companies don't have one is that building one manually can take weeks or even months. Because you're essentially translating every legal position your company has taken across years of negotiation into a structured set of written requirements. And doing that from scratch is a big project. With Legartis, the playbook creation is automated through what we call the playbook agent. You either upload representative sample contracts or input your key requirements. The agentic AI produces a complete playbook from that input, including the requirements, the fallback language, and a test set that validates the quality before you use it. Once a playbook is in place, Legartis reviews contracts against it in seconds, directly inside Microsoft Word or through the workspace. You activate the add-in, the AI runs the review, and what comes back is a structured breakdown of every clause that deviates from your standards, with the specific issue and the suggested adjustment. For a team processing hundreds of contracts a year, here that changes what review queue looks like. Instead of every contract requiring a full read, reviewers go straight to the issues the AI has already identified. One thing that matters a lot for European companies and multinationals is where contract data is processed. In our case, contract data is processed on infrastructure in Switzerland and is never shared with third parties like OpenAI or Google for training. For legal and procurement teams with GDPR obligations or data residency requirements, that's not a minor detail. It's a hard requirement, and it's one that a lot of the US-built tools on the market simply can't meet. Legartis also works across all European languages, so the same system covers a multilingual contract portfolio without needing separate tools. The companies that get a real return on AI review are the ones that actually roll this out beyond legal. Sales catches issues on incoming agreements before they ever reach legal. Only the deals that actually need legal judgment get escalated. Procurement runs every vendor contract through the same playbook, so compliance is built into the process rather than checked after the fact. And legal gets to focus on what actually requires their expertise: negotiation, complex deals, strategy. So if you're running a legal or procurement team and contracts are taking longer to review than your business can afford, book a demo with Legartis by clicking the first link in the description. You'll get a live walkthrough of how it handles your contract types, so you can see exactly where you'll save time before you commit to anything. Again, you can book that demo by clicking the first link below this video. And if you want to learn more about what the best AI tools are for contract review right now, then check out this video next.